Hi everyone, I'm Steven and today I'm making Mysterio's helmet from Spider-Man Far From Home. If you're curious, please subscribe, like this video, and let's get to it! The main part of Mysterio's helmet looks like a globe, so I went out and I found a beach ball to use as the structure for some paper mache. After blowing up the ball, I taped some cardboard at the bottom of it to help prevent it from rolling around on the table. This not only acts as a stand, but it will also help me leave a hole at the bottom of the helmet so I can put it on my head. Just make sure that this cardboard stand is big enough to slip over your head. When the ball was taped into place, it was time to start covering it in paper mache. Just a tip, cover your work surface so drips of paper mache goo won't get everywhere and take forever to clean up. I put mine in a box and it helped a lot. To make the paper mache paste, I mixed together flour and water until it was a consistency of slightly watered down white glue. If you want, you can definitely make yours thicker or even more watery. Any amount of flour mixed with water will work, it'll just impact how long it takes to dry. I ripped newspaper and some scrap paper into about 1-inch strips, although smaller definitely works better. Ripping the paper works better than cutting the strips because you want the sides of the paper to be frayed so they kind of blend into each other better than if they were just cut in a straight line. I covered the entire ball and let it dry completely before covering it again, and again, and again. In total, I did 4 layers and probably would have done a 5th layer if I wasn't trying to get this video up by the end of the week. I can't stress this enough, let each layer dry completely before adding on the next layer. To help speed up the drying process, I left mine outside and did 2 layers per day. Once the ball is covered in the 4 or 5 layers of paper mache and dried completely, I removed the cardboard stand I taped onto the beach ball and it popped right out as soon as I cut the tape. I opened the little valve on the ball and gently pushed down on it to help it deflate. This is why that little valve was positioned at the bottom before I put any paper mache on it. See, it comes out easily and the dried paper mache holds its shape. I took some sandpaper and lightly sanded the entire paper mache dome, moving my hand mostly in a circular motion, but occasionally going back and forth pretty fast to sand out any bigger bumps. Then I painted the entire dome in light gray to help give me a better idea about how smooth the surface was. It was pretty smooth, and frankly I didn't mind the remaining bumps. However, if you want your helmet to be a little bit smoother, you can paint on a coat of joint compound, wood filler, or gesso, let it dry, and then sand it between coats until you get the level of smoothness that you desire. You can keep going on this process as long as you want. It's pretty easy, just very time consuming due to the sanding. At this point, I wasn't entirely sure how to make the metal neck part of Mysterio's helmet, so I decided to start with a little box that sits right in the bottom center of the front of Mysterio's helmet. To be honest, I just fiddled around until I got the shape that I liked, that slanted down on top, out on the sides, and then out again at another angle on the sides. This was done out of corrugated cardboard because I wanted it to be sturdy. Basically, I just hot glued together a bunch of oddly shaped triangles to make this, but any downward slanted box would look good. For the metal rim that runs around the neck, I originally wanted to do this by stacking cereal box cardboard on top of each other until it was thick and curved. However, I didn't have enough of this thin type of cardboard, so I grabbed some scrap EVA foam instead. This is just one of the side pieces that interlock onto the sides of a foam floor tile. If you don't have foam, you can easily use cardboard or tubing, or if you want to use foam and don't have floor mats, use an old flip-flop. They're made out of foam and work fine as long as they're the cheap ones that bend easily. However, I used EVA foam and snipped off the pieces until it was a long, thin strip. I hot glued and taped it together so it would fit around the bottom of the ball. I would usually glue EVA foam with rubber cement, but the hot glue works just fine and I plan to cover up the taped seams anyway. The metal rim on Mysterio's helmet has these things that kind of look like little clasps, so I used cut up corrugated cardboard to put a little box on each of the taped seams as well as on the back of the rim, so that there are a total of 3 fake clasps that are evenly spaced. The front box got glued onto the front, and then I glued a small cube of foam into the center of that. I thought the clasps looked a little too boring when they were all in place, so I cut out a thin strip of cereal box cardboard to add a little embellishment to each side of those fake clasps. After I did that, I decided I wanted to slant this neck piece inward for an added effect and a little bit of extra height. To do this, I took short rectangles of cereal box cardboard and hot glued them onto the bottom of the EVA foam at a 45-degree angle inward. It kind of looks weird now, but it'll look good once it's all trimmed and painted. Just a note, before you paint EVA foam, you're going to need to seal it. And to do this, I just brushed on 3 coats of Mod Podge before painting on top of it. So the dome and the rim both got painted in 2 coats of black. A gloss black is ideal for painting fake metal, and I use this inexpensive craft paint chalkboard paint that was on clearance for $1.50 because it's shiny. After that, I painted on 2 coats of silver craft paint on the dome and 3 coats of gold craft paint on the rim. The rim is done with 3 coats, so I put that off to the side in order to finish the dome. Once the silver paint on the dome dried, I tried it on and I gently tapped on the helmet until I felt like I was tapping right where my eyes were located. I marked these 2 spots with a marker, 1 spot in front of each eye, before taking it off to see if those 2 dots made sense. I also added some marks at the bottom where my chin would be. I'll make some holes here too in order to help with the airflow, and these are just going to be covered by the neck piece, so it doesn't really matter if they're messy. Just to double check the spacing for my eyes, I lined it up with a pair of glasses. It looked about right, so I started drilling. If you don't have a drill, you can make holes with a push pin or scissors and gently rotate them around in order to make the holes bigger. If you don't want to do any type of holes, you could also cut out a strip from the dome and glue on a screen in order to cover it up so you can see through it. However, I just drilled a bunch of holes in a circle, being careful with the spacing. It's very easy to accidentally rip if the holes get too close. However, the good thing is that any hole can be covered in glue and paper mache if it actually does rip. With the addition of each new set of holes, I tried the helmet on to figure out if I needed more and where they should be placed. I admit that the visibility is not the best with this helmet, but I can see enough to know if I'm about to run into something, and that's really all I need. Anyway, with the holes drilled, I'm going to paint on another coat of the silver craft paint, hot glue the 2 pieces together, and I'll be back with the finished product. So there you have it, a DIY Mysterio helmet from Spider-Man Far From Home that's made out of paper mache, cardboard, and a tiny bit of foam. I like it, and it's definitely a much cheaper alternative than buying an acrylic globe offline in order to make his helmet. I debated painting swirling clouds on the dome, but I ended up liking the plain silver, so that's how I kept it. I've always liked Mysterio in the comics, so it's fun to see how the MCU reimagined his costume for the big screen. Anyway, please let me know what you think about this helmet in the comments below. I'd love to hear from everyone. I'd also love it if you would subscribe to my channel and like this video. Thanks for watching, and talk to you soon, everyone. Bye-bye. Ow, 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 ow! Son of a spider.